What is up, everyone? This is Noah with another unscripted commentary. Today I wanted to talk about the impossibility of translation. I don't know if you have ever tried learning a different language, but that is a very difficult task. I think sometimes when we're not familiar with how languages work, we get the impression that, everything is just a one-to-one translation, that we just use the words interchangeably, and maybe the order is a little weird, but that's about it. As you dig into the process of learning another language and translating, you just realize how deep it is. Every language is embedded in a particular context, right? There are images that are being drawn upon. In English, we have, the King James Bible and Shakespeare that have influenced so many phrases we use. This idea of star-crossed lovers, and just all these kind of turns of phrase that have kind of been built up from people living in this language for so long, that they're just things that don't translate easily to a different context, that have totally different ways of understanding. And so that process is incredibly difficult, not to mention when you're translating old documents, right? I have a minor in ancient Greek. And so this experience of trying to understand what people, thousands of years ago were trying to communicate through these written words on a page, there's a lot of work that has to be done. And it's a lot of work to do it if it's just somebody who's on the other end of the world right now, and then another level to do it for somebody who is both also temporally distant from yourself. And so that's a whole level of impossibility. But I also want to get at the impossibility of translating between people, right? The fact that I am able to communicate with you despite having the same language, most likely, maybe you're watching this translated or something. And potentially the same culture. Maybe you are from my own country, maybe my own state, maybe my own city, maybe you're in my neighborhood even. But the fact that I'm still able to communicate is wild, right? Because I have my own set of experiences that form the way I see the world. I have my own likes and dislikes. I have, my own mental illnesses, and those frame a lot of the ways that I understand how I function in the world, and then, how the world responds to me. And so we're all in this jumble of our personal experiences, and the fact that we're able to communicate any shared experience at all feels surprising to me. So when we're talking about, these big ideas that I do on this channel, right? We're talking about things that are firmly nested in my experience of the world. So there's this video that I made relatively recently about this sense of strange beauty and familiar ugliness. This idea that we, glorify things that we don't know really. We haven't lived in those experiences, and so we can easily fetishize them. And then we look at ourselves and our home, and then we kind of despise them because they're familiar and we see the flaws in them. There was a comment on that video that was saying that I was kind of firmly stuck in my American sense, and I should be able to see the beauty in other things. And I think the point I made that video was because I do. I'm trying to challenge certain things, right? Like this idea that people kind of glorify an experience of living in Japan despite having never been there and not knowing nothing about it, and just seeing it through a manga or something. But that's also based in my experience of living in a place where that is a common thing, that everything outside is glorified and everything within is seen as the most evil thing, and this is my kind of pushing back against that feeling. I don't know what the experience is, even within my own country, by other people, but I know what I experience and what I see, especially online. And so I was trying to push back against that. But in many ways, we're all trying to push back against something. We're all trying to respond to a different experience of the world. And, the best you can do is just try to communicate that as best as you can. But again, the impossibility of translation. How do I communicate to you that my experience of the world is vastly different than yours? My parents both grew up in the South, and their experience is probably vastly different than mine. Like, they probably experienced a lot more of those xenophobic trends or experiences, and mine is kind of the opposite. That saw home as something horrible and evil, and everywhere else as this glorious land that is destined. I don't know. And so just trying to find some sort of balance to all of that. I think that's kind of what we're searching for. Maybe you don't, but I think there are some who are trying to do that. And part of this has to do with wisdom as well. Like, wisdom is this interesting idea. You have the contradictions. People talk about, you'll see online, people are talking about contradictions in the Bible, and they'll point out to different things. And one of the ones that often gets brought up is in the book of Proverbs, which is just a set of wise sayings, is the thought. It's just, Proverbs, that's literally what that word means. And there's a famous passage where it says something like, don't answer a fool according to his folly. Like, don't respond to somebody who's acting foolishly. Basically, you'll be dragged into an argument that you're not going to win. And then right after that, it says, answer a fool according to his folly. And people say, contradiction. There's the contradiction right there. It says one place, do this thing, and the other place it says, don't do this thing. And this is one of those cases of wisdom is contradictory because it's not instantiated. It's not, a thing. It's not put into a context. It's a very vague. It's the most vague and most true universally. And so it has no particulars in that sense, or very few particulars. So there are going to be times where it actually is best to kind of respond to somebody according to their folly, respond to a fool according to their nonsense, and get into that argument and try to make something happen. And sometimes it's best to just ignore them and leave them be. It's better to just let them go. And it just, it's another skill to be able to discern when those times are. In the same way, with this channel, I have been struggling with this as well. This is a video I made a while back about the generational handoff and the difficulty of different groups of people, especially across generations. How do we communicate these things? Wisdom is just so abstract and not applied that it takes another person to come in and do the application work, and to come in and to find out, what does this wisdom mean in my particular context and place? What does it mean for me, Noah, right now in this place to be wise and say something wise, versus my wife in the other room as she's talking to her brother? What does it mean for her to be wise in that scenario? We're all kind of doing this process, and we can learn from one another, but we also need to understand that I'm not you. The things that you speak might be true in your context, but sometimes those hyper applied things, not facts about the world or whatever, but truths that you have found to be true. Somebody might say, I need to love myself, and one person, when they say it, they might be meaning something totally different than another person. There have been times where people have abused that phrase, I should love myself. And there are other times where I think it might actually be applicable. You hate yourself. Maybe loving yourself means, not hating yourself. At least get there. So, yeah, it's a totally difficult thing, and it's you just have to do your best. You can't leave everything out in the most correct but completely vague section. You have to apply it and do that. So if anything I ever say feels like it's not applicable to you in the least as a viewer, you know, you can let it go. Just say, maybe that's not for me. If you think it's actively wrong, you know, feel free to comment and to push back. I'd love that. But just recognize that, you know, everybody is hearing something different. And so what are you hearing? Translation is nearly impossible, but maybe we'll get into why it is possible and good sometimes. But that will be for another day. Thank you all for listening and getting this far. If you have a question or a topic that you would want me to talk about, feel free to put one in the form below. I'm going to get to those and start making them again. I've gotten to every one so far. I think I have one outstanding from an earlier video. Somebody was able to respond, so I'll be getting that out soon. Thank you all, and I hope you all have a good rest of your day.